Welcome to Tim Stodds FM, a place to share new ideas, speak freely, and continuously find ways to live our best lives. And now your host, Tim Stoddard.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Tim Stoddard. Welcome to Tim Stodds FM. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get started, a quick announcement. I know that most of you are used to getting my daily blog posts delivered to your inboxes through email every morning, and I'm so sorry to disappoint some of you, but I am changing the format in which I deliver all of my content. I've been listening to some feedback, and I've been taking seriously some people that have kind of reached out to me saying like, hey man, I love your shit. I love the podcast you do. I love your blogs. It's just an email from you every day feels like it clogs up my inbox. And you know what? I want to respect people's inboxes, and I don't want to be pumping content at people. So what I decided to do is send out one weekly newsletter every Friday. So my newsletter is going to consist of some of the best content, whether that be articles or podcasts or videos that I've created throughout the week. But it's also going to consist of some really valuable stuff that I've found on the internet, whether it's something that somebody else wrote, whether it's like a really beautiful picture or maybe a really great product that I found that I think could help you out. It's just a curated weekly newsletter designed to help you with your health, your wealth, and your personal growth. That's my mission. That's what I'm here to do. I just want to make sure that I'm delivering content that can help you improve your own life. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, just go to timstodds.com. There's sign-up forms all over the site. You really can't miss it. The feedback I've gotten in the first 2 issues that I've sent out have been really phenomenal. So thank you for your feedback, and I know you're going to enjoy the newsletter. So sign up for that at timstodds.com. All right, my guest today is a really good friend of mine, my friend Ray Figs. He is the co-founder of 8 and 9 Clothing. 8 and 9 is a brand that is really close to my heart. I've been personally working with these guys for, it's got to be 5 or 6 years by now. I've actually had Ray's partner, Ray, they're co-founders of the company, and they're both named Ray. I've had Ray G on the podcast before. He's much more of kind of the visionary, the creative director. And Ray Figs, my good friend and the gentleman on the show today, is a lot more in the managerial side. And so we got to speaking about the ins and outs of what it really takes to run a successful brand, a successful e-commerce business, what it's like to be constantly touring the country, and most importantly, which is one of just the amazing things about 8 and 9 and all their ridiculous success, but how they've been able to establish themselves as a brand in a space that's as volatile and fleeting as fashion, and continue to have such amazing success over the course of 15, coming up on 20 years now. I'm telling you, you're going to love this podcast. You're going to love listening to Ray and what Figs has to say about just his insight and his experience building this business. And you're also going to hear about some of the challenges. So I loved it. I love talking to these guys. I know you're going to love this episode. Please help me welcome my good friends, Ray Figs. Ray Figs, thank you so much for joining me on my show. I really appreciate you being here.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime, brother.
Great. So let's jump right into it. Obviously, the other Ray Gilbo from 8 and 9 has been on my show before, and a lot of people really, really enjoyed that episode. But I was excited to talk to you about it because in the years that we've been working with each other, you've been a lot more hands-on with kind of the managerial side and some of the day-to-day tasks and the management of running a successful clothing line. And you guys are more streetwear, but just apparel of any kind. So So I want to lead with that because I'm really interested in your take on the management day-to-day side of what e-commerce is like. But even before you get into that, I want to make sure that people know who you are, what 8 and 9 Clothing is, what you guys have been up to the last 10 years, and just give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself. So just tell me a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Ray Figs. With 8 and 9 Clothing. I'm an original founding partner of the brand. Myself and Ray G go back, I want to say to about 96 or 97 or so. And we met each other in New York, and we became good friends and started, we used to just hustle all different types of things like T-shirts and hats and clothes and sneakers, whatever we could get our hands on. And Ray had left New York, I want to say in probably the early, maybe 2000 or something like that. And he called me one day with this plan to like start our own brand. And at first I was really scared. I didn't really see the big picture, but I was always, down to try something new. And he pretty much, came up with the logo, kind of like the concept behind the brand. And back in 2001, we launched our first collection, and it went well. But we had some issues with with 2001, the year of 9/11. We were actually creating things in Pakistan, and we got a bunch of stuff stuck overseas, and we weren't really able to launch our line properly, which set us back a lot of years. It took us some time to really get back into the swing of things. So during that time, we would connect with DJs, and we were doing printing for other people, design work and stuff like that, until we were able and ready to relaunch the brand, which happened in about 2008. And we made this campaign called 2008 and 9. So from there, we've been pretty much rolling pretty hard since then. In 2008, 2009, we started relying on matching our designs and our clothing to sneakers, because Ray and I have always been like big sneakerheads. We've always been into sneakers. We've always been into like matching our hats to our sneakers and things like that before it was like really like popular. So that's pretty much what kind of like catapulted us onto the streetwear scene, was having just dope graphics that weren't just normal graphic. It wasn't like the standard stuff that people were doing, the ideas and the designs that we were doing. It was kind of like you would have to look at the design and kind of like figure out what's going on and what's the question, what are you guys trying to say? That's what we were going for. Even with the name itself, 8 and 9 Clothing, it's kind of something where you have to ask the person, like, what does that mean? That's not just a standard, name, which at that time, a lot of the brands were kind of just, you knew what the brand was about by the name. For us, we were dealing with the numbers. So like the number 8 is, if you look at the number 8, it's like an infinity sign if you turn it sideways. So we always thought of the 8 as being infinite. And then the number 9 in different religions and different cultures stands for different things. For us, we took the meaning as knowledge or like perfection. So it was always, infinite perfection. So we looked at 8 and 9 as infinite perfection of ideas. Like always, trying to perfect your ideas, always trying to perfect your craft. So fast forward to now to 2019, we've been going really strong with our brand. We have a solid fan base. We've dealt with a lot of and collaborated with a lot of rappers, a lot of artists, and people from different fields, and it's really been a blast, man. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and I couldn't see it any other way,
Absolutely. One of the things that I always bring up when I talk about 8 and 9 is when you and Ray talk about it, and when the whole 8 and 9 crew kind of talks about it, it falls by in passing so easily, just because you guys are so used to doing what you're doing. But you started this in 2001. For anybody that doesn't have a good recollection, a good understanding on how fast the apparel industry moves, and especially something like streetwear, where just the fashion is changing every day. Like a good successful streetwear brand, if you can really kill it in the course of 2, 3, we'll say 5 years tops, then you're top of the top. You made it. But you guys have been around really doing it for a solid 15 years. Like, do you ever take a second to take a step back and appreciate like what you guys have done and how ridiculously hard that is? And what does that mean to you at the same time? Like, tell me a little bit about what it means to you to build something that has such sustainability in a market that's like so volatile.
Well, it means a lot to us because it took us a really long time to get to where we're at, and I know how hard we worked on it. And just like you said, I know it's something that is not easy to obtain and to keep going on. And I really do appreciate it. But the thing that kind of like makes me realize how serious it is and how much of a feat it is like when I get these like memories back from like Facebook, for example, and I'm like, man, like I'm looking at, one of our first, cause we do a lot of sneaker conventions, like, just how they have Comic-Con. We do a sneaker show called SneakerCon, which we've been dealing with them since 2009. And sometimes I look back at some of these memories that pop up on Facebook and things like that, and I'm like, man, we had like one table with like 3 T-shirts. I brought like 2 of my personal sneakers, and that was our table. And we were like, I felt like I was on the top of the world then. Because like I'm here, able to showcase our idea, something that we came up with, and talk to people and get their feedback, and just to really be in the mix of everything. And now fast forward, when I do these, we doing big trade shows, and we have 20 by 20 booths and stuff like that. And it's just really, really crazy to see. I honestly, I really don't even realize it sometimes until I really take the time to look back, because I just feel like it's just something I've lived for so long.
I can't imagine what that would feel like to. Well, I understand the feeling of looking back and remembering those times where you were just satisfied doing what it is that you love to do.
Right.
We'll joke sometimes, like we'll shoot the shit when we were starting Stodzy and when we got our first office. And I've talked about this in the podcast before. There was a moment where I remember kind of sitting at my desk and just listening. And in the development room, they were talking about, and this was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they were just shooting ideas back and forth with the client website, and in like the content/marketing room, just the way we had our office split up, they were shooting ideas about just some content that we were putting together for social media. And Brian, who you met before, Brian, my partner, was kind of pacing back and forth on a sales call. And I remember just kind of sitting there, and I remember saying to myself, and before I even get to this quote, you got to remember, this is a time where like we were really, really hustling. So like, we were working and everything was good, but the next day wasn't guaranteed. It was still waking up every morning going like, okay, I got to get after it today. And I like to think that I still have that mentality, but the point I'm making is that it was much more shaky ground back then than it is now. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, like, you know what, Tim, you're not fucking sleeping. You're definitely not eating the way you're supposed to do. Like, you're kind of just a ball of anxiety all the time, but appreciate this moment, because one day you're going to look back and kind of wish you could step back into that moment where everything was uncertain and you were just happy doing what it is that you love to do. And so
Right.
when you tell me that story, I'm picturing you and I'm picturing Ray at this tiny little booth and just the buzz of SneakerCon, and you guys are just happy that you're there, you know?
Right.
And now,
Exactly.
15 years later, look at you.
Right. And what's wild about that is that, and just the SneakerCon thing in particular is that, the first show that I did with SneakerCon, I believe it was 2009 or 2010, but my point is that they were in the bottom they were like in the basement of a church, so it was like these guys were just starting out, and they were only doing it in New York. So SneakerCon is something that I do. It's like a tour for us. It's something that we do 10 to 12 times a year. We travel all these different cities and stuff. But at that point, they were only in New York. So it's, also every time I do a show at SneakerCon, I kind of just sit back and I'm like, bro, like I really can't believe that I'm in, I've built the brand up also alongside with these guys. We're touring with them for so long, and now now they're going to London and all over the world. So that's also something that opens up my eyes, because I'm also seeing somebody that we've worked with, progress and go further. So it's really wild, man. It's really wild to see that and be in the middle of that.
It's so cool. And before I kind of transition to the next topic I want to talk about, I also just want to say that another thing that I've admired about you guys and your team is you've never taken that for granted. It's very easy when you get successful to kind of like have expectations, and everybody falls into the trap. By all means, I'm not saying that, you guys are like perfect or that I'm perfect or anybody, but I have noticed when you guys put on the parties and when you have the events and the stuff you talk about on social media, like you've never lost that sense of gratitude and that sense of like enthusiasm about just being there, just doing the stuff that you love. So for what it's worth, I want you to know that I kind of always appreciated that about the work that you guys do.
Thank you, man. I definitely appreciate that, brother.
For sure. All right. Moving on to kind of my next topic. When I introduced you, I mentioned that when I think of 8 and 9 Clothing, I think of the two Rays and the two, sort of sides of the brain that you guys handle. I think that if most people want to start a fashion brand, there's a lot of these visions of grandeur, right? Or whatever the expression is. I think I said that wrong. But it's easy to get stuck in the ideas of just photo shoots and Instagram and just living the lifestyle and throwing these parties with other artists. And it's very, very easy to not think about the things like managing inventory and about like customer service and about what do you do when somebody orders the wrong size and they bought it for a present and they need to get it done the very next day, or even just the whole concept of constantly having to come out with new collections because it never stops. It's very difficult to actually be able to build a brand on I'm sure there's a couple of brands that come to mind, but where you can just put like your logo on the shirt and bam, that's your brand. Like for the most part, you have to conceptualize something and you have to constantly reinvent yourself. So talk to me a little bit about what it's like being more in the grind, in the day-to-day of those things that I mentioned, like inventory management and producing new collections and managing content and social media. What's that like?
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. You really have to do a lot of research to figure out how to really take care of these things, because it's people, like a lot of people do think it's like easy to just start a brand. It's everything that you just said. Like you can easily come up with an idea, come up with a logo or a couple of t-shirts, but to really create a brand, it's very difficult. And me personally, on my side, like I handle customer service. I handle social media posts, marketing, and so me and Ray, we kind of split on certain things. He handles a lot of the. He's basically the creative director, so he comes up with the collections and the ideas and stuff like that, which I give input to as well. But I feel like you really have to look at each of these things and kind of delegate them to between each other. If you have a partner, that's what me and Ray do.
I agree.
There's certain things, that he's way better at than I am, and I'm sure he feels there's certain things that I'm more better at. And we've been able to build a pretty solid team. We have people that have been with us for a very long time, years. And I feel the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to like take each thing. Let's say it's blog posting, for example. That's something that that's something that you've helped me with in the past, and I got better at it. And until I was able to teach one of our guys how to do it and then pass that on to him. So I feel like it's about, going through each one of these steps, learning it, trying to master it as much as you can, and then leveling up onto like something else, passing that down to the other person, and, and just keep moving up the ladder. That's kind of like how we've done it,
Yes, I certainly do know. I have struggled a lot with that concept, and I've done it. I'd like to congratulate myself a little bit for being able to do that, because it's impossible to scale unless you get out of your own way, right? But have you struggled? Yeah, have you struggled with just letting go? Okay, like everybody struggles with that, right? It's so hard to let that shit go.
Like for me, for example, like something that I struggled with, I want to say it like about 3 years ago, was Ray used to handle the Instagram, the Instagram and the social media just for Instagram. I would handle Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. But, Instagram has come such a long way. It's so important. It's such a big part of our business. And it's something that he would strictly handle. I was at one point very scared and kind of afraid to make a caption, because the caption is very important. It's like, it's just as important as the picture. And I didn't feel that I had the skills to create a good caption and to create daily content. And, Ray was doing it. And then as Ray started to level up and start to learn different things to help put us in better positions, while I was, running around doing these shows and touching the people and stuff. At one point he was just like, bro, like he told all of us, he was like, bro, I'm not doing Instagram no more. Like, I'm not doing Instagram no more. Like, somebody else has to do it, or if not, then we're just not gonna have no Instagram posts, because he just happened to get so busy that's just is what that's what it was, So at that point, I just took over Instagram, and I really started doing my research. I started looking at other people and how they were doing their captions, and eventually I got out of my way. And I've been handling the Instagram by myself, for some years now, and it's just crazy because it's just like you said, like sometimes you're in your own way. Now it's like, I run multiple accounts. I run 8 and 9's account. I run our fan page, our showroom page for the store. Like other people reach out to me for advice and information on how to run their Instagram. So, it's something where, and then like I said, I started doing more of the social media and the Instagram, and then I kind of like passed the blog over to one of my boys over here in New York that helps me out a lot, my boy Mikey. So it's really crazy how you can like kind of be in your own way,
It's, gosh, and it's one of those things where once you go through the experience, it's pretty easy to be able to look at somebody and say, hey man, like you're in your own way, you need to delegate some of this stuff. But
Right.
like you can never actually teach somebody how to do it. You have to go through it yourself and just sort of struggle with the pain of like letting something go and then seeing firsthand that it does work better, that you can't
Right.
trust other people. Like, yeah, the idea is always in your head, and when it's your business and your company, you take ownership of it, and nobody can treat your baby like you can treat your baby. But at the same time, there's just as much fear in that kind of thinking as there is anything else, because you're fearful that that other people can't do as good a job as you. And I've been pleasantly surprised anytime I've been able to kind of pass the torch, so to speak, that, you know, people are really talented, and it's always been, it's always added to my business, is what I'm saying, when you can delegate, and when you can bring new people on, because then you as the business owner free up your time to like grow the company and not just
Right.
grow all these little tiny responsibilities.
Right. Right. For sure. For sure. And it's important, man, especially with a streetwear brand. Like, people want to know like what you're doing, what's going on, like what are you guys about. So there's a lot of, moving components to it, and it's like you got to be on top of it. You got to have a good solid team that's willing to go outside of their comfort zone and keep leveling up, man. And that's, I mean, you've been fortunate enough to have a good solid team, and I'm very appreciative of them.
Well, that's a perfect transition, because that was my next topic of discussion. There's no question that what you guys have been able to do is largely due to the fact that you call it a team, and the word family in companies gets tossed around a lot, but you guys really, really do embody that. I mean, the core group of you, I mean, you really are family. Like you spend most of your time with each other. You talk to each other all the time. Was that something that just kind of came naturally, or did you start 8 and 9 with that whole brotherhood, sisterhood, family concept in mind?
Um, I feel like I don't think we really started it with that concept in mind. I think it's like we kind of started it with this concept of like keep your head down, work hard, don't take shit from anyone, just really just work hard, bust your ass and get it done. And I feel like people gravitated to that
Mm.
and became our friends and family. And like, when you're in the trenches and we all have one common goal to take this brand to the top, and we're working hours upon hours. There, our first warehouse was in Ray's condo in Miami, you know and Peso and Naps used to, and my boy Craig used to come over to Ray's condo and be there overnight after working. After working at their jobs, will come over and then pack all these orders, and so once you go through things like that with people and they stick around for it, I mean, it's just a bond that's not something you can just buy. That's not something that you can fake. You know, it's just something real. It's something real, and I think that's kind of what's made us a family. Just like all the trials and tribulations that we've been through, all the hard work that we've put into the brand to get it to where it's at. I think that's what's kind of like gelled us together, and why we're still together and friends and family and just doing what we do.
I think so too. You mentioned trials and tribulations, and I think that's almost selling short of some of the, maybe struggles is too strong of a word, but probably not. I think maybe some of the challenges as a business that you guys have gone through, and
Yeah.
and um, I'm always interested to hear about challenges, because in our modern entrepreneurial world, people have a very bad habit of just presenting themselves in the kind of light that they want to be presented in. And it's marketing. You know, I'm by no means saying that you should post an Instagram page just full of all of the bad things that happen to you during the day, because like nobody wants to see that, you know, like
Right.
People go to your brand because of how it makes them feel, and you want to present yourself in like a positive light and what you're talking about. But with
Right.
that being in mind, I always appreciate businesses and companies that are just open-minded and transparent about the things that they've had to overcome, because I
Mhm.
feel like those, like getting through those challenges better equips you to continue to succeed in the future, because then you're less afraid of bad things that can happen, because shit always happens,
Right.
right?
For
So
sure.
with that real long-winded kind of entryway in mind, talk to me about what you would consider to be some of the hardest, most challenging times in 8 and 9.
I mean, I could tell you one thing that comes. I mean, for first, the first thing would be that 2001, loss. I didn't say how much we lost, but I mean, we put, you know, a lot of money into 8 and 9 when we first started it. You know, um, and let's just say it was over like 50,000. For us at that time, that's a lot of money.
When you're first starting.
Yeah, in 2001, some young kids basically starting this brand, put all of this money, and it gets half our shipment gets stuck in Pakistan because of 9/11. We had, that's probably the biggest challenge that we had, because how do you come back from that? We were just still learning how to we was just learning how to build a brand. We didn't really know everything that we were doing. We were kind of just going along with it. So imagine, you know, getting all of that together, having orders for stores, and then half of your inventory getting stuck. Like, what do you do? Most people would have just quit and, hey, I guess this making a brand is not for me,
Hmm.
but we were able to parlay that situation into doing designs for other people. We did designs for other people, flyers, business cards. Um, we started reaching out to different mixtape DJs, and hey, we'll design this cover for you. Just represent for us and put our logo on your cover. And we started doing a lot of that type of stuff, and that kind of like held us over until we were really able to to come back in 2008 and 9 and kind of rebrand ourselves, and it was years. It was years that, it took us to do that. So that was like a really, really huge challenge. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have made it out of that. And I want to say another big challenge for us, I don't know if it's a big challenge, but another challenge for us would be uh, just like you said, how fast streetwear changes. And there was a point of time where, Yeezy, Kanye West kind of took over with this like homeless look. You know what I mean? So it's like, bro, like we got a whole entire line of stuff. We're trying to get you fresh. We're trying to make you, stand out and these bright colors and match your sneakers. And then all of a sudden, it's cool to look homeless. It's like what do you do with that? Like what do you do with that? Because like with us, that's we've never we don't just bow down to trends, you know? We pay homage to older trends and things like that and bring it back. We don't just bow down to trends and just give in and just do what everyone else is doing, because that's people that know us, they just know that's not what we about and that's not what we represent. Um so that was like very difficult to make it through that period where it was a couple of years of just, you know, name brand wasn't really that cool. You would just throw on some sweats and an oversized T-shirt, a bunch of holes in it and stuff, and you're automatically on trend. So I feel like things like that, along with uh, stores like H&M and now Zara and Forever 21 Men and Fashion Nova and all of these other outlets that people can go and get fast fashion for low price. I mean, how do you combat that? How do you stay alive during that? And for us, we've always stayed true to our core audience. We've always, worked hard at coming up with new ideas, constantly reinventing the brand. And I mean, that was a pretty big challenge, and it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge. Just like you said at the beginning, that this fashion changes very fast. People's attention spans are a lot shorter now. So how do you keep people interested? And that's a challenge. It's been a challenge, and luckily for us, we've been able to overcome that challenge and stay strong even now in 2019.
I remember that time, and that was really a tough one, because
Yeah.
I think you kind of put it best when you just say, how do you combat that? Because it was so perplexing.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
know, like what do you, well, ultimately what happened after the real particular trend of whatever Kanye West was doing sort of fell out, the market as a whole did move away from matching and colors and kind of graphic designs to being a lot more on trend to fit and
Definitely.
almost like texture of clothing as well. Maybe some of the angles of the cut. It was a lot less about like just how loud your outfit was. Maybe I'm not explaining it right, but I'd like to kind of hear your input on it, and just way more along the lines of just how the clothes fit, and a lot more solid colors, and just really kind of intricate designs. Like I remember there was a whole line of shirts that went out where the sleeves weren't hemmed. There was like little cuts on the sleeves. So I don't know the terminology as well as you probably do, but what I'm saying is you can't predict stuff like that. And when 8 and 9 has already kind of established its own identity, where is that line where you feel in your heart that you're selling yourself out because you need to keep up with the trend? And where is the line where you can kind of pivot and sort of adjust to stay on trend, but still be true to yourself?
Right. So that time period that we're discussing, this like the trend was more of just like really clean. I guess you could. I don't know if you could call it really clean cut, but it's like you said, there wasn't a lot of graphics, there wasn't a lot of colors. It was just kind of really just clean, and just have a nice pair of sneakers on with it, and you're good. For us, we had to dibble and dabble in it a little bit, but what we do is if we see something that is on trend and our customers need to have it, then we put our own spin on it. So during that time, for example, what we did, we made this set called a rudimental set, which was more about just having a nice high quality sweatsuit, not too much going on, with a nice 8 and 9 Keys logo, our main logo on the chest, and also the logo on the sweatpants somewhere. But it was just very small, very subtle, and we were able to kind of still take that type of style but put our spin on it, and also showcase it with we always, like I said, just big sneakerhead. So how do you put that with like a pair of Jordans, for example? Because when Kanye was on his trip, it was all about Adidas and this and that. It wasn't so much Nike. So how do we put this fit and make it look good with a pair of Nikes or a pair of Jordans? So that's kind of how we were able to still kind of dibble and dabble in that trend, but put our own spin on it. And then we also never stopped doing what we were originally doing. Like we were still, doing the sneaker matches. Even though it wasn't as popular, we were still doing sneaker matches. We were still doing colors. We were still doing big graphics. But we made a specific collection that if our customer wanted to kind of have that same look, they could get it, but it would be 8 and 9. And I think that was like really, really important for us. And I feel it worked out for us in the best.
I think so too. And I think that there's just a huge lesson to be learned for anybody that is thinking about starting a clothing brand, or whether it's going to be streetwear or any kind of I don't know, fashion vertical, I guess you would call it, things
Yeah.
are going to change, and you need to find a way to keep your identity while
Right.
giving the people what they want. So some more examples of what you were talking about, and I guess I can probably put some excuse me, some pictures in the show notes. But this was when you also did that really cool baseball tee, and it was super clean, and like you had the stitching on there with just a real clean 8 and 9 logo. And
Right.
I
Right.
remember you came out with a line of those waffle short hoodies that just had
Oh
like the
man.
real
Yeah,
clean
that
8
was.
and 9 logo on the front. I still have that hoodie, by the way. I wear it at least once a week. I've had that excuse me, for like 5 years.
Right. Right.
So, I don't need to kind of beat this point to death, but I will just reiterate one more time how important it is. Anybody listening to this, what's working for you now, like I promise you, isn't going to work for you forever. So like,
Right.
you
Right. For
almost always
sure.
just have to be on high alert to find the thing that's about to sneak up on you and be
Right.
able to react to it,
Yeah, and it's like, when I was saying trials and tribulations before, like there's things that we've tried that maybe it didn't work so well. But it's like if you can't always just go with the trend, you have to try to set trends as well. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And it's like one of the trends that I feel that we were a big part of starting was kind of like the athletic streetwear kind of vibe back in like 2013 or so. I'm not saying we were the actual first people, but we were one of the most popular brands doing it at the time. And it seemed like after we put out certain designs and styles, it seemed like a lot of people started kind of to follow suit, you know. And there's a lot of times when we tried that and it didn't work, and then you're like, oh man, I got 68 pieces here. I got to move that, it's wind up going on sale eventually or something, But it's like if you don't go out there and take those risks, like there's no reward, you know. We took a risk with the athletic thing, and it just happened to just pop, and it got on tons of celebrities, and it did really well for us. It catapulted our Instagram, our social media, and we haven't really looked back since. But my point is that again, you can't always follow a trend. You got to try to start some, and it's always not going to work. It's not always going to work out. Sometimes it'll work out, sometimes it won't. But if you just try to stick to the same old thing, it's definitely going to be a boring, same situation over and over again. You're not going to get too far.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get boring for you as well. So there's a thing that happens with brands, especially where you can comment on this because it's going to sound a little bit like woo woo, but like people can feel when you're excited about the shit that you're putting out there. And even though it's through, like an Instagram or it's through a blog post or through a YouTube video, and there, in your case, there are a lot of instances where you're meeting your customers face to face just because you guys do so much touring with these conventions. But
Yeah.
even if you were to take that stuff out, people can feel if you're not motivated about your brand and your message. And I don't
Right.
know what that is. I don't, maybe it's just enthusiasm. Maybe there's something
Yeah.
deeper to it. I don't know. I don't
I
really.
think it's the work too, because like it's gonna come out in your work. Like if you're half-assing it and you're not really excited about it, like I don't think you're gonna really put out like your best work. And I think people can kind of just tell from that as well. Like if you're cutting corners or missing certain things that are hitting. It's tough, man. It's definitely tough.
It is tough, and I to comment on that a little bit. I can think off the top of my head in the limited streetwear knowledge I have, probably the three. Well, when you think of successful streetwear brands, right? You think of what? Fubu, Echo, and Sean John, right? All three of them kind of died from the same disease of just not being able to reinvent themselves. They just got stale. And I'm not saying that they weren't successful. I'm just saying that there's something to be said for the longevity that you guys have had. And you've been able to have that longevity because you've been able to keep moving and stay enthusiastic about, like you just said, about your work.
Right. Definitely. I agree.
I love it, man. Okay, so let me start wrapping this thing up. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is more of kind of an emotional topic, because
Mm.
I've seen people when I started my tiny little clothing line that you guys helped me with so much, and I still think it was a huge success in my eyes and like a really good learning experience. I always said that my dream was to just walk down the street and somebody passed me by wearing one of the designs I came up with, and it
Right.
never happened. And we got to a point where there was like a year where we were doing somewhere between like $300 to $600 a day. And I got that rush, you know what I mean? I got that real
Right.
rush of like, this is my brand and people are buying my ideas, and it died, and it is what it is. But from when you were talking about that sweatsuit that you guys made, I would see people in that sweatsuit everywhere. Every city I
Mm.
would go into,
Mm.
I mean, I would see it all the time. Everywhere I
Right.
went, at least once a week, I would see somebody wearing that 8 9 sweatsuit. What is the feeling like when you travel across the country, and when
Mm.
in some cases, like you were saying, travel across the world, and you just see strangers that are literally wearing your ideas and your work and your fucking like your identity,
Right.
like
Bro,
just tell me about what that feels
bro, I've been smiling the whole time you were talking about that.
like.
I've literally been smiling and just like nodding my head the whole like for every word that you said, because it's like even now after all these years I still get a rush and am excited and smile and like I'm like staring at the person anytime I see someone wearing 89, because it's still crazy to me. It's even now after all these years, it's still crazy to me, and it still trips me out. And sometimes, I go up to the person and I ask them, where they got it from and things like that. But it's really a crazy feeling. I don't even know how to really describe that feeling other than me being like ecstatic at someone really taking their time and their money to purchase our ideas, like you said. It's I don't know. I feel like I'm probably gonna be like that, like because we're still kind of like a underground brand,
Mhm.
So kind of like it still trips me out. It still trips me out to see that. And I mean, we have customers that have 8 and 9 logo tattoos, you know. So it's like it's just wild, man. It's just wild for people to really understand your I don't want to say morals, but kind of just like how we move and the things that we stand for.
Yeah, I was struggling to find that word too. For some reason, like essence comes to mind. It's like,
Yeah, or maybe values or something like
sure. Yeah,
that,
sure.
because like I said, we have a certain way of thinking, and it's not the most popular, way of thinking, and to have people that rock out with us and understand what we're about. It's just really crazy, man. And like, listen, man, like even this week, someone tagged me, with an 8 and 9 Big Keys logo on their hand, and it's just nuts, man. That's just nuts to me.
Have you ever gone up to anybody on the street passing by and like introduce yourself, or do you kind of you stay stealth mode?
Oh no, I mean it really just depends on how I feel,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've definitely have came up to people and or went up to people and just like, man, like, thank you for rocking with us. Like, maybe I'll give them like a discount code or something like that. And
Uh,
my thing is I want to know where they get it from. That's my thing. I want to know, did you go online and get it? Like did you get it from a store? A lot of times people be like, my friend bought it for me. I'm just really interested on knowing like where you got it from, because I mean, we're available on multiple platforms and here and there. But like I said, we're just like, we're not just a common brand like that. You kind of got to know what's up, or it's got to be something that you saw in the graphic that you really liked. So I'm just always excited to just, see someone wearing it and, maybe chop it up with them real quick. And then there's been times where, um, because I do so much touring and stuff like that, people have come up to me and be like, "Hey, Figs, like, what's up?" You know what I mean? Like, that's happened a bunch of times. To me, that's even crazier because, like, you might catch me a few times here and there on our Instagram and stuff like that, but, I don't put myself out there too crazy besides, like, these shows. So to just have random people, like, in the airport or, somewhere else come up to me, it's just nuts, man. It's just nuts. It's really nuts.
Because you want to, like, you almost want to tell them, like, look, I'm really not that cool.
I'm like, it's just me. Like, So it's nuts, man. It's nuts. Like, this guy wanted to take a picture with me one time. It's only happened to me once, so I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not acting like I'm Tupac or something, but I'm just saying, like, at least one time somebody came up to me and wanted to take a picture, and I'm just like, man, I'm like, that? When I was like, wow, I think we made it, man.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here laughing about it because I was in Philly one time visiting my family, and I got off the subway, and I was coming up the stairs of the subway, and I saw somebody wearing those sweatsuits, and I don't even know what the fuck happened to me. I just got in such, like, geek mode because it was at the time when we were sort of coming out of that end of the graphic tee design sort of fizzling through, and I know how hard you guys work to get out of it. And so I saw it, and I just ran up to this poor guy. God, I'm even embarrassed talking about it. I was like, yo. I'm like, oh, man, I love your sweatsuit. And I was like, yo, man, let me take a picture. Like, my friend is going to love this. I took a picture with this poor schmuck, and I sent it to him. So.
It's, you'd be surprised, like, the people because we have, people that have been rocking with us forever, like friends and family and stuff. And you're not the only one, man. People will definitely, one of my friends, shout out my boy Stuart, bro, he'll run up on anybody. He doesn't care. He'll run up on you, ask you where you got it from, like, everything. Like, he has no problem with running up on you. So there's definitely people that do that, man. But listen, man, it's just exciting, man. It's just exciting to see, someone in your stuff, man. Something that you worked so hard to produce and put together, and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. Like, every day I wake up, I wake up early in the morning. As soon as I wake up, I check my phone, and I'm looking through it, like, boogers in my eyes. I've been up for like 15 seconds. You know what I mean? The first thing I'm doing from my bed is checking our Instagram, see what comments went down, check real quick to see what the sales are, check real quick to see, what emails there are, and then I get out of bed. So it's like I feel like I live, breathe, and you know what I mean? It's just 8 and 9 is in me, and it's just a crazy feeling to have something that you've created that you love so much that you can actually live off of, man. It's something else, man. It really is.
Man, I love it, Figs. Look, homie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know that the people that listen to me are going to get so much out of this episode and so much out of your insight. But before you sign off, please just let us know what you're working on. Let us know what we can expect to drop from 8 and 9. And most importantly, just tell everybody where they can find more about you and find more about the brand. Okay,
so right now, we've got a bunch of matches for the Jordan Infrared 6. We've been listening to our fans. Our fans, our core fans, want us to continue to keep matching these popular sneaker matches.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, so it's like, it's something that we've, I don't want to say we've moved away from it, but we were doing less of it. And now, we're right back on to doing a lot of it, and also continuing to do cut and sew. So you're going to see a whole lot more sneaker matches, things that you can, wear. It's not even so much just sneaker matching, but clothing that you can wear with your sneakers that looks good together. Nice. You know what I mean? I don't know if that, how that sounds, but we want you to get those sneakers, put this outfit on, and we want you to feel fresh. And that's something that we've done for a long time. We want to continue to do that. And we also want to continue to bring premium quality garments to our fans. Like you said, you had that hoodie that you're talking about. You've had it for 5 years. Like, we want things, we want our stuff to be timeless. We want you to be able to wear it years from now, for it to still look cool, for it to still be intact, for you to still be able to wear it. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of our customers appreciate from us the most. I have people, sending me pictures of their T-shirts that they have from 2013, and it's just 2014. It's just crazy, to see that the quality of the stuff that is still lasting that long, and they still love it, and they still love it and wear it. So that's what we're definitely going to continue on to that. Definitely good stuff to wear with your sneakers, high quality products. We're going to continue to keep doing cut and sew items. So you'll see jerseys and jackets. We got a set of bags that's going to be dropping in another week or two. A lot of people have been asking us for that. So we're definitely going to be doing a lot more accessories. Yeah, I mean, that's the plan, man. That's the plan, to just keep adding new things on, try to keep the collections tight, and keep trucking, man. And I mean, for us, you can always find us if you Google 8 and 9, everything will pretty much come up, but it's like the number 8 AND9. You can catch us on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. You can also catch us on Twitter and Facebook. But Instagram will pretty much give you the best look at the brand. And my personal Instagram is Figs8 and 9. So that's FIGGS 8 AND9. And yeah, man, I think that's it.
I think that's it too, man. Figs, I know I said this before. I appreciate your time so much. I know you got a family, and I know you're working hard, and you took an hour out of your day to come talk to me. I know everybody listening to this will appreciate it as well. It was really great talking to you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you too. You've helped us a lot throughout the year. So for me, it was like a no-brainer to give back, come on your podcast and chop it up with you, man. It feels like I didn't feel like I'm on a podcast. I just feel like we're just talking, like I just call you like how we normally would just talk on the phone,
Yeah.
Totally all good, man. I definitely appreciate you, man. And thanks for always being there for us. And thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. For anybody listening, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you get value out of my show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend. If you are feeling generous, subscribe, leave me a rating on iTunes. It's really the most helpful thing you can do to support my work and support my show. Thank you, everybody, so much. Ray, thanks again. I'll talk to you all next week. See you.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Hey guys, it's me. It's Tim. One last time before we wrap up, just wanted to say thank you for tuning into the podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes. Please leave me an honest rating. Please follow me on Spotify. It's the best thing you can do to support the show. If you want to find out more, go to timstods.com. Feel free to fill out the contact form to reach out to me personally. I always respond. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.